Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zoom into Wine. It's time for the show and your host, Ian Blackburn.
Welcome, my name is Ian Blackburn. I'm the host of Wine LA, and this is Zoom into Wine, a weekly series of wine tastings that we do every Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. Wednesday is always with a particular winery. We call it Winery Wednesdays. Saturday, anything goes on Saturday, and today is something really special. And then on Sundays, we do it's called Study Up. Study Up Sundays is usually a $50 fun, fast, casual, but intense focus kind of for the geeks. Saturday night, we're going to have some fun, and we're going to taste some awesome stuff. And the price restrictions kind of come up on Saturday, allowing us to do some of the more extravagant things. And Wednesdays, it's all about just the producer and the cost they bring us. As we deliver the wine so that you can taste along with the wineries. Now today we're going to taste a couple of really interesting wines, and I wanted to do this for a long time. I love to do comparative tastings. I really think it's one of the best ways to learn about wine is to taste one grape next to another. And we've got a nice audience today, a little more intimate, about 15 folks on the Zoom. But most of you have the wine, which is cool. Lauren, it looks like you're doing something special back there. Backyard party, awesome. And thank you guys for joining us down in San Diego. How are you, Sue? Good to have you. Marilyn, that smoke coming through out there in Pasadena?
Indeed it is.
Yeah, we stopped and had a little lunch out there. The ash was falling all over our car. Pasadena's in a tough spot right now. Those fires are breathing down their back. Pia, you're out there too, right down the street from Maryland. I'm glad you're both on the Zoom. Is Erica joining us tonight, Pia?
No, she's not. She had another event.
Okay. Well, I hope she's doing okay. The Frenches are in Santa Monica. Thank you guys for joining us. Norman, how are you, sir? Good to have you. Jim, thank you for joining us. You and your wife there in West LA.
See you.
Hi, the Wilsons. Welcome. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, you doing all right? You got some wine with you today? It says Jim Wilson on the Zoom box down there at the bottom. All right. Well, I'm excited to get started. We are going to start with the Meursault. And let's get a little bit of that going on. It's the Chanson, which is a really notable house, very historically relevant, one of the prestigious older negociants actually initially. And then after the French Revolution, land ownership became a real thing. We went from a negociant type of business model to an ownership type of business model. And after Napoleonic laws kicked in, if somebody died, you had to pay inheritance tax, pass it on in the family, and that's still intact. Although they are starting to get a little more sophisticated with corporate ownership, so that inheritance tax can be avoided, but then you're also paying corporate law or corporate taxes on your income, so it's a little different. The French have it, the French way, but we're going to taste a Chanson, which is pretty internationally renowned, up against a very good Puigny-Montrachet. Both of them are Premier Cru. I want you to notice also that they're both called La Perrière, which is just the name of one of the great vineyard sites in each of the villages. We're going to go into some maps and take a look at where those are. We're going to talk about the differences between these places because they're really, really close to each other. But the subtlety is pretty, it's there but it's significant. I would, in a quick nutshell, just describe, Puigny-Montrachet as kind of this more richer, rounder, creamier, bigger expression of Chardonnay. And Meursault tends to have a little bit more of an elegance and restraint. And that is potentially going to be demonstrated here today. We'll see. We have two very good producers. Our first wine has a little bit of age on it, and it's going to work to its favor. Finding an equivalent 2012 just wasn't possible financially. The 2012 Premier Cru's are quite a bit more dear and hard to get enough for a class where I need about 24 bottles to distribute for the program. So I found a very good 2016 from Kermit Lynch up in Berkeley. He's the importer. He's also a wine retailer, but this came highly recommended. So I've got 2 glasses for tonight so that I can do them side by side. Hopefully you can as well. If you can't, we'll just taste one at a time. But let's take some special note and before we get into some of our content. And I would always like to start off with a little bit of a toast so that I can welcome you guys. And, you know, we're all going through a lot. It's been a pretty challenging week for me personally. The smoke really hit my wife's ability to sleep, which, you know, in turn affects my ability to sleep. And I was up at 3 a.m. a couple of nights this week. So pretty sleep deprived and probably in need of some really good wine at this point. So cheers, everyone. Thank you for joining me on Zoom Into Wine. Check out that beautiful color. You can see that those streaks of gold kind of appearing here as our first wine benefits from not only really good use of wood, really high quality fruit, but also a little bit of age. So age imparts a little bit of color and accentuates that golden tone. As we look down, you can see it just has a little hint of that straw gold. And it also picks up a little bit of oxidation in the wood. That's known as oxidative winemaking. And one of the reasons we put Chardonnay in wood is to give it extra time, extra attention. It's a bigger white wine expression capable of holding the wood, but not getting dominated by it. Wow. The nose in this wine is just almost like the name, Le Perriers. It's all about that stony minerality in Burgundy. We always talk about smelling the wine in the kind of the order that we smell it. The first perception is wet rock, and then we get a little bit deeper and we can get into some of those classic Chardonnay characteristics, the apple, the pear, and start to think about them on a spectrum of ripe to underripe. And even, you know, sometimes when we get into California Chardonnay, we talk about bruised apple, baked apple. But here it's a little bit more like fresh apple or crisp apple, green apple, Asian pear. It's definitely got a little bit more softness and ripeness. You might argue it's more in that baked apple direction with a little bit of time. 2012, 8 years old. It's just really kind of hitting its stride. This wine is absolutely capable of going 30 years. And great Premier Cru, probably optimal around 10 years old, typically, and can go for quite a bit longer. I'm just smelling the wine at this moment. If you have the capability of smelling the other before you taste it, because you can really, your ability to smell is really enhanced before you taste the wine. Once you taste it, kind of locked in on what you're smelling, and it's hard to really differentiate as much. A little bit of food, a little bit of water, break it up a little bit. Let's go into our Puini, which this producer, Lucien Boyau, really pretty famous, definitely been in the portfolio with Kermit Lynch for a while, has great historical pedigree. And Puini, Le Perrier, really an important part of the Puini Montrachet village, as many producers make wine from Le Perrier. We'll talk about that in detail. So I'll just gonna get us started here, and then I'm gonna back it up, and we're gonna really go through the whole Burgundy experience in detail tonight. Okay. I think the expression is perfect here. We go from that stony, subtle, restrained Meursault, showing that, that little bit of age, but that is the way Meursault kind of shows that restraint, that rock, that stone, into the Puigny experience, which is like almost got, like a key lime pie, round, rich, exotic, big, bold, creamy, textural. This has got almost like, comparisons to butter, comparisons to cooked cream. Barnett, what do you think?
Ian, this the nose seems pretty, not closed, but not very giving yet. I took it out of the vial, right at about 7. Is it going to need a little bit of time because it's not playing fully yet, I guess.
You're right, but honestly, it's probably 5 years from playing. It's a young wine, 16, good producer, Puigny Montrachet. If you're going to drink a whole bottle, you probably want to let this wine get a few more years on it. It has the tension, you can even smell that slightly, it's like picking a piece of fruit just a little bit early. And that's what we've got here. It's got kind of that little bit of green fruit notions behind it, but that nose is explosive. And quite honestly, we can do this tasting tonight in the direction that we're doing it. 12 Meursault Perrier and 16 Puigny Perrier. But I don't know that we could flip it around and have the same type of experience, because the Meursault, it does not show that this type of nose and character until it gets older. The Puigny gives you, this is almost kind of got that California mixture of oak, wood, fruit in the front. In the mouth, I think it's still really got a long way to go to richening up. Every year it's going to unlock a little bit. And this wine has already come a long way. In fact, this wine that we're tasting now, the 18s are arriving already. And 18 is going to be a really good year for Burgundy, a big, bountiful year for Burgundy. And apparently quality very, very high. Haven't tasted any of them yet, but they're arriving. And so being able to taste it with a couple of years of bottle, 4 years of age right now. Most restaurants have already sold a lot of their 16s, and they're getting ready to buy their 17s or 18s. So this is kind of where the world tastes these wines. If you get a chance to show off and pick something up with 10 years plus, these wines really do reward that type of patience. All right, so let's get started with a little bit of content. Anybody got a question you want to ask right now before we dive into the details? Tom, is Susan going to join us, or is she over there? I don't see her in your Susan French. Is she there tonight? Oh, she's to the right. All right. I just want to see if she's back there. I can't see you, but that's okay. I saw your hand. That's a good start. Let's get into our little video, which I think will help us. I like to disappear for a second into the place, and we have a nice video here about the white wines of Burgundy. Kind of give us a little bit of background, then we'll get a little more granular in our PowerPoint.
L'épaisseur du mur, 7 mètres d'épaisseur, ce qui permet d'avoir une conservation absolument.
Under the city of Beaune, France, in the ancient cellars of Bouchard Père et Fils, is a bottle that challenges all I know to be true about white wine.
Can everybody hear that okay? I just put it on pause for a second. All right.
Ici, on a toute l'histoire des vins. Et ici, je vais vous montrer la plus ancienne bouteille, qui est un Meursault Charme 1846.
It's a bottle of 1846 Chardonnay. The Meursault that Christophe Bouchard tells me is in perfect condition.
Une bouteille qui a été soufflée à la bouche.
Still fresh with excellent acidity. Its longevity is a testament to the quality of these great wines from Burgundy. The heart of Burgundy's vineyards is a white grape that has conquered the world. It's a chameleon, one that changes its character, expressing the soil and weather from where it's grown. It's a grape that, especially here, can be overwhelmingly complex, but knowing a few simple truths can make it accessible.
Chardonnay is the ultimate world traveler. It's planted in every major wine-growing region around the world, adapting to a various range of soils and climate. But the earliest written reference to Chardonnay speaks to it grown right here at Clos de Vougeot in 1330.
The rolling limestone hills of Burgundy provide the ideal cool climate conditions for Chardonnay. The combination of soil, site, climate, and local traditions are called terroir. The Burgundians have their own word for this. They call it climat. I talked with wine scholar Jean-Pierre Renard.
In each place, you have a different climatic condition, different type of soil and subsoil, different wine growers, maybe with a different history behind. So all that is a link between the place and the product.
This region was blessed by Mother Nature. The growing region is focused on a limestone escarpment running for 200 kilometers from Chablis in the north down to Mâcon near Lyon in the south. At its heart is the Côte d'Or, with the largest concentration of Premier Cru and Grand Cru vineyards, revered for their quality the world over. Regardless of style, all white wines here are made from Chardonnay.
Comme ça, où sommes-nous?
Alors ici, nous sommes vraiment au cœur de la Bourgogne, là où on produit les plus grands vins blancs.
The style of Chardonnay here differs significantly from those grown in warmer climates like California. First planted in the Middle Ages, there is no finer example worldwide than the white wines of Montrachet.
Vous voyez ici, sur la droite, nous avons le Montrachet Grand Cru.
Oui.
Sur la gauche, le Chevalier Montrachet. Et un peu plus loin, au bout du chemin, nous avons les Puligny Montrachet Premier Cru.
In Burgundy, I find it amazing that the soil of one vineyard will differ significantly from another, even when they're only a few meters apart. Here in Montrachet, there's a Grand Cru vineyard next to a Premier Cru vineyard. There will be a significant price difference between these two wines when they go to market. Winemaker Fabrice Laine explains the criteria used to establish these boundaries.
Comme ça, c'est tout premier cru. C'est quoi qui fait la différence en prix?
La différence se fait déjà au niveau du climat, du terroir, parce que des vignes comme celle-ci ont été plantées au Moyen-Âge et un sol qui s'est fait au fur et à mesure du temps. Et c'est ça qui donne la différence au niveau du vin.
Wherever you see a road or stone wall in Burgundy, it has deeper meaning. It's likely an ancient demarcation from centuries ago, dividing one plot of land from another. Burgundy's growing regions are a patchwork of these small plots codified by the monks of the Middle Ages. The classification system of vineyard location is key to understanding the quality in Burgundy. On the flat land and at the bottom of the hill, they grow grapes for regional and village wines. The soil here is more fertile. On the sloped lands near the bottom and at the top of the hills, they source the fruit for Premier Cru wines. These are more focused in character. The best locations, near the top of the hill, is where they source Grand Cru wines. This is the pinnacle, the finest expression of Chardonnay in Burgundy. While Chardonnay is made the world over, these vineyards are home to some of the greatest, most age-worthy white wines in the world.
When we talk about the wines of Burgundy being all about location, this is one of the reasons why. Here we have soil samples from various vineyards, and you can see they vary dramatically. So picture planting the same grape variety in each of these vineyards. You can only expect that the end result is going to be quite different.
Là, nous arrivons dans la cave du XIe siècle.
11th century. It's a long time. On se prépare pour la vendage?
Ouais, effectivement, on se prépare pour réceptionner le jus de raisin blanc qui va fermenter dans les fûts.
The soils of Montrachet produces wines of power and longevity. This is considered by many to be the greatest white wine appellation in France, and perhaps the world. Close by, in the quiet village of Marceau, they stand ready for harvest. This is a town with wine at its heart. The weather here is unpredictable. And Mother Nature can have her own ideas. The harvesters are called into action as the rain begins. For the vigneron, it's essential that the grapes are picked before water swells the fruit or rot sets in. They're not prone to panic. Generations of experience on this land have taught them a respect for tradition, a life in harmony with the vine.
Pour être payé aujourd'hui, on a dû faire toutes les vignes de Montly.
Here they celebrate cool climate Chardonnay, a benchmark style worldwide.
When we look at the range of wines available in Burgundy, this is a great example. We have all 4 levels of our pyramid. We have the regional wines. These are the most affordable. Half of the wines produced in Burgundy are just labeled as regional wines called Appellation Bourgogne. In this case, they even say it's Chardonnay. These wines are a great introduction to what the rest of Burgundy has to offer. As you move up the scale, we have the village wines. In this case, it's a Merceau. I love Merceau. You get a nice little hint of oak. These are soft, and a real great introduction to what village wines can be all about. As we move up a little farther, we go to Premier Cru. And this is where we start to get the expression of terroir. These wines have a lot of character, a little more complexity, and there's such a wide range to discover. As we move up to the top of the level, we have Grand Cru. Now these wines are special. There's not a lot made. They come from very, very small parcels of land. And what makes them unique is the soil composition on these properties is special. With these wines, you can expect aromas and flavors of white tree fruit. You're going to get some citrus character, but it's a backbone of minerality, and that really gives these wines ageability. Yeah, they're expensive, but they're certainly worth the experience.
This is the town of Auxerre on Burgundy's north edge. They're famous here for a white wine that took the world by storm. Winemaking here is rooted in the ancient church, and this 12th century press still operates as it once did. These monks created a style of Chardonnay that took its name from Burgundy's northern region, Chablis.
In the 16th and 17th century, Chablis had a virtual monopoly on the lucrative Parisian market. And around this time, the English started to import substantial quantities. Riverways and canals were used as an effective means of transportation, and this really allowed Chablis to become one of the most extensively planted vineyards in the world.
Chablis is the most northerly growing region in Burgundy and grows Chardonnay exclusively, with 7 Grand Cru and 40 Premier Cru vineyards. The secret to this region's style lies in an ancient seabed of fossilized shells called Kimmeridgian soil, which infuses the minerality of the limestone into the wine. For me,
the
purest expression of the Chardonnay grape.
That takes us into what we wanted to explore with our first part of that. We could go into detail on Chablis, and I'm going to recommend you come back and do our Chablis session with Albert Bichot, which we will have a winemaker from Albert Bichot on our Zoom later. But Chablis is special because the Chablis soils have this amazing fossilized oyster shells, and is really one of the most unique soils in Burgundy, and quite detached from the rest of Burgundy. So with that, let me take you into a beautiful map to show you where we are as succinctly as this is a look at Burgundy, which runs kind of north to south, kind of at a little bit of an angle We see the sun rise in the east and set in the west, and it kind of, you get this morning kind of sun along the Burgundy region. As we zoom in a little bit closer, we can see how close Puini and Meursault are. Can everybody see that okay? We're gonna get a little bit closer, but I'm just gonna zoom in slowly, and you can see that this is the highway right here. It's called where's the highway? RN 74, I believe, is what the highway is, and it goes right down through the cities. And so you have everyone living here really close to the road. It's nice and flat, and as we look up from the highway, we can see the incline in the hill. Right about 3/4 of the way up the hill, the monks realized that the grapes were growing a little bit better than, say, down at the valley floor where it was really rich soils. And if you go too high, it gets a little too thin. The soils get too thin and the sun gets too intense. So right about 3/4 of the way, they found these better spots. And in fact, the orange spot that we're looking at is Montrachet. This is Montrachet. You got different expressions of the Grand Cru. Chevalier Montrachet, Montrachet, Batard Montrachet, and Bienvenu Batard Montrachet. And if you're French and you're hearing me say these words, I'm sorry for my poor French. But this vineyard is actually shared by the region next door, which is Chassani Montrachet. And you can see this red line goes right down the middle. So both Chassani and Puini were named after the Grand Cru, which is right here. It's like the heart of the two. And the line divides the two. And this is one of the more unique aspects of Burgundy, that this vineyard was so important that they allowed it to coexist in both villages. And it is said that a single hectare of Montrachet would cost so much to buy or to sell that it would take generations to pay for it, valued way north of multi-million dollars. It used to be said it was $1 million an acre, and I've heard recently that it's more like $100 million an acre if you wanted to purchase land in that area. So that's where the land value really kind of dictates the price of the fruit and the price of the wine. Now, if we go in a little bit closer here, we see this Grand Cru vineyard. We just go over a little bit. We got Les Parcelles, Clavion, and then here's Le Perrier, which is what we're tasting tonight. Now, when we go over to Meursault, which is the village next door, and this line is just a line on the map. You probably won't even know if you were standing in Le Perrier. You could look over and you could see the different the neighboring area here. And so here we have Le Perrier up in the top part of Meursault, and I want to make sure I get this right. I think I have a better map that we're going to look at here in a second. I'm going to click onto it now. Let's look at Meursault first. Can you see Meursault here? So this is just a nice, really beautifully done to orchestrate the what is Meursault. The areas that don't have names or are not darkened in color are not part of the Premier Cru. The yellow areas could be grown and bottled as Meursault. You could always take better wine and blend it down into the basic wine. You cannot take really good basic wine and say, wow, we really nailed it. This is the best Meursault. Let's call it our Premier Cru this year. That's not how it works. You can blend down, but you cannot blend up. They call it repli. Now, here is Le Perrier, and I don't know which piece is owned by Chanson, but this is a very old vineyard holding that they have, and based on the different aspects, I see Le Perriers here. It's hard to tell which one, but there is a thing called Clos de Perrier right in the middle. It's a walled-in spot, so they would either be north. Let's see, north. I'm trying to get aspect here. North or south of the Clos, to be called Le Perrier, but anywhere in here could be put into the Premier Cru. Okay, let's do the same look at our Puini Montrachet. And I'm providing you with all these links at the end of the video. But again, here's the portion of Puini that's in the Grand Cru. And then you come down, Les Pucelles, Clavion, there's Clos de la Mouche, and the Le Perrier right here. La Ferret, La Combe, Clos de la Garenne, La Falatier. These are all amazing, expensive, beautiful, and they're on the same plane, kind of 3/4 up the way of the hill, and really, really important parts of Puini. And Puini is a little bit larger than Meursault in holdings of super high-end real estate, super high-end vineyards, and there is no Grand Cru in Meursault. Okay, that takes care of that. We're going to continue with our presentation here. We'll get into a little bit of a PowerPoint, again, to illustrate where we are. France, obviously, Paris up here, Burgundy here. Inside of Burgundy, we are in the Côte de Beaune, this green portion where the white wines kind of flourish. The Côte de Nuit to the north, that's very red wine dominant. Côte de Beaune is where we are. And then again, these exacting vineyard holdings showing you the different parcels, but I liked those other maps better, so I wanted to show those to you. And a very nice carnation of the Meursault map. And here we go. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. I'm gonna fix my PowerPoint because it is not correct. Get me to where I wanted to be. There we go. I'm going to share now. Boom. Okay. So again, this is our Meursault wine number 1, our first wine that we tried today from Chanson, that they debuted in the 1750s, but the family has owned the property or the house since the 1500s. And have been very involved in Beaune politics, Beaune being the heart of Burgundy and where most of the commerce takes place. The villages have the grapes, but the houses, the families, and the export, the winemaking facilities, and the train are all located in Beaune. So when the train stops, everyone gets on and off in Beaune. And so that's where the headquarters typically are for any sizable business. And there's a look at where Beaune is, and Meursault is just south of Beaune. Okay, so founded in 1750s, they were one of the 5 grand shippers of Burgundy, and as I described them before, they're known as négociants, because before you used to buy the fruit from the church. And after Napoleon and the war, that broke apart. The church ownership was dissolved. Land ownership was given to the folks that could buy the land and tend the land. And Chanson became a vineyard owner at that time. They owned approximately 45 hectares or approximately 100 acres of land, and it's exclusively in Premier and Grand Cru. So that makes them one of the most important houses in all of Burgundy. That's a lot of land ownership for Burgundy, by the way. Back in the 16th century, they first rented and acquired, then acquired in 1794, the tower that is basically a landmark tower inside of Beaune. It's kind of a protective fortress, a wall, if you will, that goes all the way around Beaune, and is where they store their barrels and make their wine. If you go to Beaune, you can visit Chanson. You do need an appointment, and it helps if you work in the wine business or if a wine teacher refers you. So let me know you're going there, and we'll get you an appointment at Chanson. Really historically important. Vintage 2012, also important to talk about vintage, which we will. And go back to that slide. So let's start from the top. Producer, Chanson, France, Côte de Beaune, Meursault appellation, Premier Cru designation, 100% Chardonnay, clay and limestone, covered with stones, 13.8 alcohol. The site specific is called Les Perrières. It's situated mid-slope on the hill south of Meursault. The southern part of Meursault. This Premier Cru vineyard is considered as the ultimate area in Meursault, combining richness and minerality. 2012 vintage. After a very cold winter and cold spring, the weather at the start of the summer was quite demanding. It became fine again at the second half of August with hot temperatures. Harvest commenced in early September under bright sunshine. The combination of all these climatic factors has engendered a significant drop in yields, but quality is there. Meticulous vinification have produced very pure white wines with beautiful aromas, aged in oak during 12 months. Tasting note, delicate gold color, floral fragrances mixed with aromas of peach and apple. I believe they spelled apple incorrect. Mixed with vanilla, intense with a well-structured, finely grained texture and beautiful minerality, long and elegant finish. So this is the official note from the winery. Now we can go back to our wine and taste it and compare what we're seeing now with 5+ years in the bottle. Another look at the other side, the pretty side of Domaine Chanson's facility. And the owner, Simon Ferry, he is the founder. I'm quite a fan of this house's wines. They really are classic. And I would say stylistically, between the two wines that we're trying today, Chanson is a more classic, more old school producer, really letting the vineyard speak. When we get into a producer like Lucien Boyau, it's a little more modern, and I'm sure that the Boyau family would be a little taken back by me saying that, but the evidence is in the glass, and 16 is a warmer vintage for sure. But the evidence in the glass here is a little bit more richer, softer, made for a little bit more gregarious consumption. And but I don't think anyone would be offended if they were compared to Chanson and being said that they were more modern than Chanson, because Chanson is very classic. So really nice look at the hill of Meursault right behind him. Look at that stone. That is what the grapes endure. This is obviously winter time. The vines have been cut back. It's raining almost every day, and you have this clay and limestone soil underneath of it. This is like absolutely heaven for anyone that's a grape grower, but can be a wet, cold place to live. The facility at Chanson is immaculate. They are very well funded. They have everything they need to make world-class wines. They pick pretty early, and they do use a little bit older but very high quality wood, and they do not focus on burying the wine with a lot of wood aromas. Let's go into our wine glass once again and study the Chanson and just see if we could pick up any more notes or attributes out of the glass, especially as the wine warms up too. When the wine was first poured, from me, my wine was right out of the refrigerator, pretty icy cold. And now as it warms up, you can really reveal, it's like taking off layers of clothing, and the wine's a little bit more naked now. It's really balanced and pretty and delicate and refined. It's sturdy. You can tell that this wine will age for a long, long time. There's good spine of acidity there. 30 seconds later, I can still feel my mouth kind of nice and clean, but there's no licking of a popsicle stick or of a toothpick. That kind of resonates sometimes when the wine producer uses a lot of new wood. This wine is really classic. The finish is just perfect. And honestly, that is absolutely benchmark Premier Cru Merceau. Really, really good. Our next wine, we will get into the Puini unless anyone has a comment or a question about the first wine. Lauren, are you guys doing okay back there? Are you guys in the middle of a food course? Yeah, you guys are well? Raise your hands in the air. Wave them like you don't care. If you love the, yes, the first one was pretty damn good, wasn't it? All right. All right, so here it's time for Puini Montrachet Premier Cru, Lucien Boyau, and 2016. So I don't really think we need to give it any kind of like disclaimer about that, because most people drink this wine right now. Very few people have the ability to get their hands on. I was very lucky to pick up that 2012. I bought a lot of it, and I still have quite a bit of the 2012 Perrier. When we shut down for COVID, the wine world, the distributors had a lot of older inventory that all of a sudden did not have any restaurants to sell it to, and it was absolutely brought in for restaurants. And I know a couple of restaurants that had this wine on, or maybe still have this wine on the list, but they chose to sell it off, and I was in the right place at the right time to pick it all up. I picked up every single bottle that there was, and it wasn't a lot, but it was enough for me to have a good position for our little class and for, you know, my little wine store. When it comes time to buying a Puini, there's zero Puini out there, because Puini has actually had a number of very short vintages. You know, if you know, it's kind of like the red wine of Burgundy, but the most popular village is Gevrey-Chambertin. Okay, and so Gevrey sells at a rate of about 2 to every, you know, you sell 2 Gevreys to, or maybe 3 Gevreys to any other appellation in Burgundy. And so when Puini gets short because of some vintages, loss of flowers, hail, heat, all of these things that are the extremes, in which we've had them all in the last 5 years, Puini suffers a little bit. And there is almost a shortage of Puini Montrachet in the world today. It's about to get fixed. 17 and 18 are bigger vintages and to kind of refill the coffers a little bit. But finding an aged Puini was dear. So that's why we are tasting a 16 tonight. Let's go into this a little deeper, and we can see beautiful golden color. You could, as you spin this wine around in the glass and you just give it a swirl, you can really see just how rich this is in the glass. It's got great weight, great concentration. From an inch and a half away, what I'm smelling is this beautiful tree fruit, apple and pear. Just the kind of the right amount of each. It's not too hot. It's got a good fruit. There's a plentiful amount of wood behind it, because this is a big wine. This is a big wine. You know, Premier Cru, they're going to decorate it with the right amount of wood, and then the malolactic, that creamy texture, that buttery note, it's there. That mouth is so generous and so rewarding, and so that's just yum. And I want to get you right into our PowerPoint. And I got to go to a different slide. Here we go. And this is what the bottle looks like. Some of you got our tasting kit, the smaller pour. So as we take a look at the label, Kermit Lynch proudly displayed. Actually, on my bottle, he's on the neck, not on the actual label. So that has changed since this label was taken a photo of. But you can see the name of the village, Puini, Montrachet, named after the Grand Cru. Then it's Premier Cru. All Premier Crus have the name of the village and the name of the vineyard on the label. When it's Grand Cru, it only has the Grand Cru name, Montrachet. I want to dive into that a little bit, because I suspect that when it says Montrachet or Grand Cru name on there, it's because they want to separate it from being thought of as Puini or Chanson, and they just want to focus on the Grand Cru. Because I also believe that the Grand Cru, as we looked at, which falls on both sides of the fence there, that if they have a little bit of Chanson Grand Cru, they could still blend it into their Puini Grand Cru and call it Grand Cru Montrachet. So I think that's why when it's Grand Cru, they can only put the name of the vineyard on the label. They don't even tell you it's Puini Montrachet Grand Cru. It just says Montrachet Grand Cru. Now, if it's village, it just has the village name. There are an increasingly large number of wines now that also have they call them a pet name, because it looks like it's Premier Cru, but it doesn't say anything like Wonner Cru on the bottle. See this right here? This is the important part. If it doesn't say this on the bottle, it's not. There are a lot of new wines that are coming up with pet names because they look better on the shelf. They may even fly off a wine list a little bit more than just saying the name of the village. Lucien Boyot is our producer, and he is a proprietor as well. This is planted in 1965, so fortunately I'm very close to my birth year. It's over 50 years old, clay, limestone. Look at that, 0.23 hectare. That's how much they own. That's like not even an acre, not even an acre. So I think our total production here, if I do the math real quick, let's see, one hectare is 2.3 acres, okay? So 0.23, that would be maybe it is a half of an acre of land. You divide it by 4, boom. Yeah, so you're at a half acre. So if you got a good yield of about 4 tons per acre, which I think is the maximum yield for a Premier Cru, they wouldn't get that much or more. It would be 4, maybe 3 is kind of what they would say is the average, 3 tons per acre. But that's 4 tons per acre will give you 200 cases. That's it. So if it's usually probably 150 to 100 cases that they make. Let's see if they tell us how much they made actually. Fermented in barrel, okay? And this is what I pointed out earlier, 20% new, lasting 15 to 35 days and as far as fermentation. So cool, long fermentation. In stainless steel, you can get fermentation done in 10 to 12 days, controlling temperature. But here the cellars are very cold. It's in wood, and they want it to go all the way through fermentation, and the malolactic as well. Malolactic is malic acid basically being ripped apart by bacteria and having one of its tentacles torn off, and it's turned into lactic acid basically. And so it's pretty violent and really softens the acidity. Mallow being kind of the apple type of acid, and lactic is what we find in butter and cream. So it's a conversion of malic acid to lactic acid more than it is, they call it a fermentation, but it's actually a conversion. It's aged 12 months in barrel and then 3 months in stainless steel before bottling. So they take it out of wood and they blend it together. They let it settle. They absolutely clean it up and by moving the wine from barrel and leaving behind the lees. I also think they don't talk about bâtonnage here, but this wine has been stirred over and over again because that creamy factor is really something you want to encourage. And I believe this has got extensive bâtonnage. So this is Pierre Boyot, who is being distinguished here. And I believe he is the son who has taken over from Lucien. Yeah, it says it right here. And Pierre worked together with his brother Louis. Louis now owns his own wine brand too, as that's kind of what happens in the family. They both kind of get a little piece. Maybe they split the 0.5 hectare that they had. So they each got about 0.23 or 0.25 of a hectare. And that's probably what ended up happening. We have also the limits on the production. There's no chemical, yields are limited to 30 to 45 hectoliters per hectare. That's what that first section says. That's the measures in liters and metrics. But the no chemical fertilizers used here. Very high standards for the grapes. All grapes harvested by hand. And their domain is located in Gevrey-Chambertin because they make a beautiful Gevrey product as well. But they own this site in Puigny, so they can still say that they are a proprietor. Cold soak 3 to 5 days. And then the fermentation is 100% natural, lasts for 21 days as we discovered before. I believe we're looking at notes that may include red wine production. So I'm going to tell you that there is no destemming, that these grapes go straight from the vineyard into the press. The press juice is fermented in wood and goes through malolactic fermentation, and the rest of this direction down here is for red wine production. I'll include this slide, which is way too verbose for my presentation tonight, but talks about biodiversity in the vineyards and the health that they're hoping to maintain, not using herbicides, pesticides, and things like that. So again, this is the young proprietor, Mr. Boyot, and not, as they pointed out here, not very well known in Burgundy because he exports almost all of his wine, and probably a good portion of it goes to Kermit Lynch, who's been around for a long time and is really invested in building these guys' brands. But I'm sure he diversified into Japan is a huge market for Burgundy, China, Northern Europe. And there we go. All right. Yeah. I don't know how much you have remaining of your wine, but I know Marilyn has a little bit bigger pours. Cool. I just want to give it one more go. Barnett, you finish your first one?
Yes, I'm telling jokes with the Berliners, who are dear friends and actually brought me to you. So thank you, Jim and Diane. But
yeah, thank you both.
We laugh at each other over the Zoom. Good. That's what we're doing.
Good. Well, I want to take one more look at these wines comparatively. Meursault, I think stayed very consistent. Lots of restraint, and I would describe the difference between the two. Meursault is typically more restrained, typically more elegant. It's obviously, they're both Chardonnay. The villages are very close to each other, but the way that these places historically were created, Burgundy, this place known as Burgundy, is basically a long strip of the Earth's crust that turned on its side through plateau movements. It was at one point quite high, and the Earth settled back down, and it came crashing down and exposed rings of the Earth's crust. And that's where the monks realized that this was going to be an important place to make and grow wine. And as the oceans and the water receded, it created these natural curves and really stony formations and this beautiful ascending slope. And wherever the snow melted first was really kind of going to be a better place to grow grapes. And so that exposure to the sun and the timing and all that stuff really made these type of things happen. Now, historically also note that Burgundy was, really thought of highly by the French kings and society. It really competed with Champagne, which was directly linked to the royals, as most all royal ceremonies took place in Champagne. But after the French Revolution, and after land ownership took place, and then after 1935, when the AOC, Appellation of Origin Control laws, kicked in, Burgundy started to soar. People started to realize what was happening in Burgundy was very important, the wine movement. There was a couple of very important figures like Philip the Bold, who said that Burgundy was the only wine fit for his glass, and he was in charge of the Dukes of Burgundy. So a really important dude. But as history continues, you have guys like Charlemagne, you have a lot of very important figures who hold their Burgundy wines very dear. And in fact, this has always been a wine that's been slightly hoarded. And that's one of the problems for Burgundy, is that they just don't make a lot. And when the world collects wine, and a lot of people get reverent about their first growth Bordeaux. Okay, first growth Bordeaux. A first growth Bordeaux, they'll make 25,000 cases of Chateau Lafite. A Montrachet, some wineries make 50 cases. Okay, so a bottle of Montrachet, such as Domaine Romanée-Conti Montrachet, could sell for $10,000 the day that it's released, and be worth $15,000 from the great vintages very quickly. Now, that's Montrachet, and there's only one, and there's only one Domaine Romanée-Conti. Not everything else can be compared to it. But there are other really, really superb collectible producers that you have to know the name and you hear the story. And these are just revered by collectors. But then you trickle down into this more historic ownership, brands like Chanson, like Louis Jadot, that become actually a little bit more available, but they're still so small. Now, I worked for Louis Jadot, and that's why I have this behind me. I was the West Coast key accounts manager for Louis Jadot. I was the state manager of Hawaii, manager for Co-Brand, which is the importer and owner. Family that owns Co-Brand owns Jadot. And I love Louis Jadot. It is, they make 160 wines at Louis Jadot. Some of them 50 cases and some of them a lot. In fact, I don't even know how many they make today. But I left them in 2005 to start this education business, but I was able to get to Burgundy at least 2 or 3 times a year. And every time I went, I just fell deeper and deeper in love with it. And it's still part of my life plan to retire in Burgundy. And so if you want to join me, let me know. I'm trying to buy a parcel. And I don't want to make wine out there, but I want to own a little house. I've lived there 6 months. I live in LA 6 months. And great things can happen. But I want to live in Beaune because that train, important. And it's kind of protected, and I want to be able to wake up 80 years old and walk to the farmer's market, and that's my dream. Go out in style. And I'm going to live a long time. I am. My grandparents lived until they were 98 and 97, at least on my mom's side of the family. So I hope those are the genes that I have. All right. Going back into the Puini, did we finish with that yet? I was going through history, and those Dukes of Burgundy, and they spread their wings and they became a huge empire. Burgundy is where they were from. Of course, the Hospice de Beaune is a major part of the Beaune experience. The hospital, and when people were dying of bubonic plague and other plagues and other things, other issues, they were brought to the Hospice de Beaune to die, and it was supposed to be a celebratory thing, dying at the Hospice de Beaune. And it's beautiful. If you ever get a chance to tour it, it's really quite astonishing. And the fact that they literally were trying to kill these people in the hospital by bleeding them to death is pretty interesting too. But there's a lot of history there. It's just really, really amazing. Puini is this big, golden, ripe, round, oaky, buttery, creamy sensation. And I think from the very beginning, it just showed off more fruit. It shows off more richness. It's a little more fleshy and flashy. Anyone want to comment at this point about which of the 2 wines you prefer? Not that you have to have a favorite, but which one did you prefer and why? And if you're too shy, you're welcome to make a comment, but I want to unmute you all and have you guys say some things. Pia, did you get to try the wines tonight?
No, I don't like Chardonnay.
Oh, look at you.
I was just having my Nebbiolo today.
Very nice. Okay, well, I appreciate you listening. Marilyn, which one did you like?
I like the Poulinet more than the Meursault, and I was looking so forward to the Meursault because I had some wonderful ones, but this just was so creamy and wonderful. I liked it a lot.
Good. Yeah, the Puini is a little bit more gregarious. Maybe if I asked you that question with food, your answer might be a little different. But of course, it'd have to be the right food.
Absolutely. No, I think the Merceau was more elegant, as you said. I mean, there wasn't anything wrong with it. It's
Right.
just,
Oh, sure. I asked you to pick a favorite. Jim, what did you think?
We have a spokesman here.
We loved it. We actually brought the wines with us to Utah, where we are right now.
Wow, how awesome. That's good. I'm glad you didn't ask me to ship them to Utah. That's a felony.
We did the transportation on our own, but we love the Marceau.
What part of Utah?
Park City.
All right. Probably right now it's pretty damn beautiful there, and you avoid the smoke, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Good for you.
Nice and clear, 70 degrees today.
Oh, very good, very good. And yeah, in August it's quite warm there, but you guys hit the right moment. Have you been there for a while?
A week.
Yeah, we've been up for a week. We've actually got a place up here, so we came up to get it ready for ski season.
All right, good for you. Well, awesome. Lauren, how about your group back there? Did you guys have a favorite? How many of you guys liked wine number 1 the best?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. And wine number 2 the best?
Well, we had the luxury of being able to try these with food. So we had a white fish and some mashed potatoes and green beans. And with that pairing, the Merceau had kind of a liveliness and a crisp acidity that really, really worked well with the food. They're both fabulous, but drinking the wine by itself, the Polini was creamy and nice. I think if you were just going to have that by itself without food, it was really a delightful wine. But I think the Merceau really worked better with the food that we had.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You nailed it.
All right. Yeah, that was consensus.
This is my computer here.
Cool.
These are great. These are really wonderful wines.
Excellent. I'm so glad you liked them.
Yes.
Well, I love your setup out there, guys. Looks really nice.
This is paradise, man. Yeah, the fires are far from us. No smoke, beautiful weather. Can't beat it. We're really, really lucky and blessed out here.
So, Ian, we're actually at Michelle's place here. This is her little patio outdoors.
Look how perfect.
About that.
Who did the cooking?
Michelle. Oh, she did great.
Is she doing the dishes then right now? Where is she?
Yeah. I know. That's a little chauvinistic. The girls took off the go help.
They're serving desserts.
Okay. Well, good for you guys. Lucky.
Thank you. Thank you for everything. It's great information.
It was really good.
Awesome, guys. Norman, did you, I know you're back there. Did you have any comments?
Yeah, I think I prefer the Polini Montrachet. The Marceau is great. I just, from my perspective, I don't drink a lot of Chardonnay, but the Marceau had a little bit of butterscotch in it, which is not necessarily what I prefer in a Chardonnay. I know it's popular, but I do like the Polini Montrachet a little bit better. They're both great wines.
Yeah, I think that the age has probably allowed that rockiness to really kind of come forward. But yeah, it's also the house style. They're pretty restrained, picked pretty early. They're one of the earlier to harvest, and so they're really going for acid.
Yeah.
And long aging, and that's just really what they do.
Interestingly enough, I had Corvain both an hour before and kept them cool. The Polini at some point actually smelled almost like on the nose was a little bit more Riesling-y. I don't know if anyone else got that, but I found that really interesting.
Yeah, like almost a little bit of papaya, passion, and pineapple, kind of popping off that nose. It's pretty bright, that Polini, and I really did enjoy both of them. At some point in time, I will open a wine on a Zoom and I'll be like, this isn't really awesome. It did happen actually in our chocolate event. We did quite a few wines with our chocolatier, and one of them just was not doing very well that day. But not tonight. tonight. I really think that these are absolutely spot on what they're supposed to be and represent, but they do show a tale of age versus youth. And I do believe that there's a tendency for us to enjoy the wines with a little bit more fruit, especially when we're not having food. And that's what's working here for the Puini. It is a great Puini Montrachet too, though. Score-wise, both these wines did very well, and you know, historically, they're both very, very good producers. Well, excellent. I've got a nice little gift bag for you guys coming with all of the different links and maps and stuff that you can look at a little closer if you like, and some of the videos that we watched and some other ones that we didn't. I'll include those in the after Zoom gift bag. I'm also going to be including a pretty sizable discount on these wines. I always like to reward you for being on the Zoom. If you're a Zoom member, maybe you're not even on the Zoom now, you'll be watching it later. You get a an invite to purchase all of the wines after every Zoom at a pretty good discount. The discount on these, because these are expensive wines, and when we mark up wine in the retail business, we typically look at margins of between 25 and 40 points. And when you look at $100+ bottle of wine, you can mark it up 30% and still be one of the lowest prices in town. So I'm able to shave a little bit more off for you guys off these wines to make it up for you and to create a really nice price point. So I'll publish that in the newsletter so it doesn't live on the video, and I'll tell you all about it. But if you want to join our membership, we have a really fun membership that rewards people for supporting us. I'm going to just ask you to let me do a little commercial as we leave here and look at Zoom Into Wine with me, which is where we are posting all of our events. We have a really fun calendar. Those of you that didn't sign up could still join us tomorrow with Bartholomew Broadbent talking about Madeira. And the Madeira wines are absolutely on point for today's world. They are timeless. You open up a bottle of Madeira, it never changes because it's cooked. And the wine is just spectacular. Nothing has acid like a Madeira. And they do have some sweetness, but they just finish so dry because the acid's off the Richter scale. And you'll learn a ton from Bartholomew, who will be on the Zoom live tomorrow. And his father is Michael Broadbent, one of the great minds in wine of all time. So really, really honored to have him on the Zoom. A very cool Zoom that I can't express my passion for enough is Chateau Moussard. And that's Wednesday. And I only have a few more sets left. So if you are interested in joining us for Moussard, we're tasting 1997 and 2013, and I could ship them pretty much anywhere except for Utah. I've got a wonderful educational session next Sunday. I'm actually, I'm going to tell you something now. I just went onto a website and got ordained as a priest or a clergy, not a priest, a clergy, so that I could marry some friends of mine next Saturday. So I'll be performing my first wedding ceremony. So on Sunday, I'll probably be pretty I don't know, reflective, but we'll be looking at a study of the Jura with my friend John Baccio, really good teacher. He teaches at a college out in the Valley, and he's been a great supporter of me, and he works for a really good importer of small artisan wines. And we're going to taste one of the very best producers named Tissot on our study of the Jura. This guy right here, Hugh Chappelle, absolute legend. He's been a winemaker for 30 plus years, and he makes wine for two great brands, Quivira and La Chapelle. And we're going to have a bottle of each on the Zoom on the 23rd. And Hugh is just a likable guy. And only Hugh would, in the middle of harvest, give me some time hopefully we don't have any problems with fires too, but I think those are working their way through right now. We've got the owner of this German wine brand called Konstantin Guntram from the Rheinheisen in Germany on our Zoom on September 27th. And we're going to taste 2005 next to 2017. So really cool to do comparative tasting, two of his wines. And we'll have a master som on this video or on this Zoom named Josh Orr, who is really an acclaimed som, and he's going to join me to do that presentation. The 30th of the month, I have the pleasure of not sure which Antinori family member we will have visit us yet, but of course we're shooting high and we're going to see how the world turns, and we'll announce that when we know, but it might be kind of a last minute decision because they're all in harvest right now. And so by the end of September, we'll see how the grapes fall. But we will have an Antinori family member with Chef Sal Marino, Marino's Restaurant. This is our second dinner with Marino's, and it's going to be awesome. And in fact, what I'm not going to do is make this dinner super, super high end because it doesn't need to be. You're going to show some awesome wines from the Antinori portfolio that are all 91, 2, 3, 4 point wines, but they are really like the wines that you can afford to drink often. In fact, I've already got the wines on the website. So I don't have the menu yet, but I'll have that from Sal very, very shortly. I think I've even got the email waiting for me. But we'll have the Chavaro, one of the great Chardonnays ever. We'll have the Vermentino from the Guadalatasso estate. We'll have their Vino Nobile di Montepulciano 2016, an incredible vintage. We'll have the Guadalatasso Il Brucato, and we'll have the which is a Syrah Merlot Sangiovese blend that got 94 points. And then we'll have their 100% Merlot wine from the Guadalatasso estate. And then we'll finish with the Maffato. And the whole dinner, food and wine, will be $100.
Like, oh, you need to send us the recipe.
You can also do recipes. We can send the wines in advance, and we do send recipes because we want people to participate from outside of Los Angeles, because getting the food to you would be difficult. That is our upcoming lineup. We're starting to populate October, but I'll save that for another time. And I hope that I get to see you very, very soon. We really appreciate your support. And we're having a sale right now at Merchant of Wine as well. Almost every wine on the website is on sale, 10% off. So take a look. The discount on the Burgundies will be a little bit larger than 10%. And so look for that email and just click on the link I give you, and you'll be able to get that discount. Thank you guys very much. I hope you have a great night and enjoy the rest of your wine. And I'll look forward to seeing you all very soon.